The video you're about to watch is something that I think is pretty special. It is from my gunsmith, and he doesn't let a lot of people in to see any of his process, much less as much as you're about to see. And, this is a Patreon, real, like, just for you guys kind of thing. You're going to get the almost 2 hours of actual footage, but please keep in mind, this is not an educational video. This is not a how to chamber a gun. This should not be used in any way for you to attempt to chamber a gun. He is, a machinist. He is a gunsmith. He has years, decades of experience. The machines that he's using are dangerous. They can hurt or kill you, and they really need to be used with a lot of care and education first. I really don't recommend anybody just jump on a lathe, myself included, just because they watch this video and think they can suddenly chamber a gun. Also keep in mind that even if you can get the barrel done, it doesn't mean you've done it correctly, and that can cause damage or injury or death from a bad chambering. So gunsmithing is not something that should be taken lightly. It should be left to professionals and people that have experience and been trained properly. This is just a fun, informative video. It is for people to understand, what does it take? What does a gunsmith do in order to chamber a barrel? Why does it cost $300 to $500 for a barrel to get chambered? And I think a lot of people have some misconceptions about that, myself included. I know years ago, I went into this thinking, oh, they just throw the barrel in a machine, they turn it on, they hit a few buttons, and they go. In today's world, maybe there are some places that have some pretty high-tech CNC machines where they can do that a little more easily, but there is still such a massive human component to chambering a gun that you really can't take that away. And again, just understand that this is something that requires a lot of experience, and that is why it costs so much to get a gun chambered. I go through anywhere up to half a dozen barrels a year, and it is expensive, and I do try to make the most out of my barrels, as do a lot of the guys that I shoot with. And yes, there are a number of people that chamber their own barrels, and they've gone and they've taken instruction, they've learned how to do it properly. The machines are expensive, the tooling's expensive. I will just tell you, for me personally, I don't think I have the mindset to do fine machine work. I recognize that in myself, and so I leave it to the professionals. But I think the opportunity to see an experienced gunsmith chamber a barrel, or at least snippets of it along the way as it's being done, really goes a long way towards having a better relationship with your gunsmith, understanding what are all the steps that are involved. What do I talk to my gunsmith about? What are the questions that I ask? I think this video is going to really help you see it. I've seen a lot of chambering videos. They are definitely done probably in a more of an educational way, and that's fine. That's not what this is. But I hope that you get to see, a true craftsman at work here and really understand, what goes into it. So, not every secret is revealed here. There are a number of things that he's done off camera, and not all of them are secrets. But there's things that take time. There's measuring. There's alignment. There's setting up tools. There's a lot of things that you're not seeing. Again, that's why this is not an educational video, but hopefully you get a really good feel for what's involved with it, all the different steps, especially if you're adding, like in my case, I'm having him add a tuner, and that's a whole nother, process. So enjoy the video. I hope that you really appreciate, Terry letting you into his shop to see, just a fraction of what he does when it comes to chambering up a gun. So enjoy. Here it comes. We are here with gunsmith Terry, and he's allowed me to spend a day in his shop, which is pretty exciting. So we're going to do a couple different videos, but the first thing he wanted to show me is kind of, and I guess there are still people who do it this way, and certainly not putting down any particular method, but he kind of wanted to show a little bit more of an old school way that people used to spin up barrels, and what some of the disadvantages are, and why you might want to consider, using a little more modern way. So he's just getting this all set up, and then we'll get at it. Yeah. Okay. So Terry's got this set up. So this is how, like, are we talking 10 years ago, 30 years ago? Like, when was this method kind of really popular?
Well, this was popular back from day one until up to today. There's still a few guys that do it this way.
Okay.
But I think, personally, there's some disadvantages. So what you would do is you would take this head part of the barrel and you would put it in, this is a 3-jaw, but you'd put this in a 4-jaw and dial it in off the center line of the bore, and then you would cut a new 60-degree center in the back of this barrel to make sure it's centered up. And you would turn the barrel around and you would take a little bit off of the muzzle in the 4-jaw to get it running true, and then you would put it in here. This is a 3-jaw, but you would put this in a 4-jaw and center up the barrel here.
Yeah.
And you would put your live center in the new 60-degree that you cut here. And then what I would do, or what I used to do, is I would cut the trunnion to size and I would thread it. Then I would take a light cut off of the shoulder here to get this running true with the center line of the bore.
Okay.
Then I would put it in the steady rest. I would put it in the steady rest and pull this out and get my floating reamer holder.
All right, so we're getting a floating reamer holder. He'll be back in a second here. And this looks like the JGS one that we just saw in my other video.
Yeah, this is JGS. Get my floating reamer holder in here. And I'll get a reamer.
Oh, okay.
Just any reamer.
All right, so we're just grabbing a random reamer. And this is just an old barrel that he had sitting around just so that he could show us the process. And now
there's a flat spot on this JGS reamer here.
When it matches up with that set screw?
It matches up with this set screw.
So, you know, I don't do any of my own barrel work or anything, obviously, but I know when I watch you work, typically the barrel is over inside the head, where only a little bit is sticking out from the jaw.
Yeah.
This is a totally different method.
Yeah, this is the old school method.
And this is using a steady rest, you said, right? Okay.
And so then you would proceed to chamber the barrel.
Okay.
But I have some problems with this, and the reason that I don't do this anymore is that in order for this barrel to turn, there has to be clearance between these fingers, and otherwise it wouldn't turn.
Right.
So there's clearance in there, right?
However little, there's always clearance.
Right.
Yeah.
So if the first 4 inches, if the first 4 or 5 inches of this hole in this barrel is perfectly straight, this method doesn't work too bad.
Okay.
But if you've got all barrels, the hole in all barrels are curved. Sometimes they're double curved, but they're not straight. If you get a barrel where this first 3 or 4 inches is not straight, and typically the first inch, and a lot of times on a new barrel will be a little wonky, you know, from when they lapped it. So you're centering up the barrel off the end here, and if you get in here 2 or 3 inches and it's 2 or 3 thousandths off, then you've got a problem.
Okay.
And what'll happen is when the reamer gets way in there, the reamer will start doing this because it's following this hole up here that's 2 or 3 thousandths out, so you get a crooked chamber.
Is that because that's not because of the floating reamer? That's because the
hole in the barrel's not straight,
and the steady rest is allowing it to move.
No, the steady rest is holding it straight.
Okay,
but the hole in the barrel is curved, and so this pilot is going to follow that curve.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So when it gets in here, if we're 2 or 3 thousandths out of being straight, then the reamer's going to start doing this.
Okay.
And you'll end up wallering the back of the chamber out over, 2 or 3 thousandths. So you got an oversized chamber, and it probably won't be straight. So, like I say, if you've got a straight hole, you get lucky. This method doesn't work too bad.
Okay.
But I prefer to do everything through the headspace, and when we go with the other lathe, I'll show you how and why we set it up
through the headstock.
Yeah, through the headstock. Yeah, but this is, like I say, there's some people still prefer to do it this way. I don't think it's accurate enough. Just my opinion.
Yeah. Now, one thing that's interesting I notice every time I come over is you have this lathe, but this is not your gunsmithing lathe. This is more like your parts lathe.
Right. I make
screws and
whatever, pillars out of old barrels and stuff like that.
Okay. And that lets you keep one lathe dedicated to...
Yeah, the new lathe is just for doing barrels.
And then you can run over here real quick, put something together if you need it.
If I have to taper a barrel, I've got a taper attachment set up for this. If I got to contour a barrel or whatever parts I got to make.
Yeah.
The other lathe is just dedicated to
well, that makes
chamber
it nice.
barrels.
All right, well, now we're going to head over to the new lathe, and he's going to show us the way he sets up a new barrel. All right, here we are on what Terry calls his modern machine, and this is where you just do barrel work on this one, right?
Barrels only.
Barrels only. So here's how you set this one up. Now, this is very different than what we just saw. So this is the barrel coming out of the headstock, and then on the back side, and feel free to correct me if I use the wrong terms here, but... idiot non-machinist doing a video. Then we have a spider, which is right there.
Yes.
And that holds the back side of the barrel to keep it from whipping around, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got an
an
indicator here. So.
Yeah. So let's set up, and I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay. So what we do to start with here is I put a pin gauge in the end of the barrel and a dial indicator on that, and I will just rough this in to kind of get it close by hand. This outside one too, I'll just kind of get it generally centered up here by hand. Then...
Is that pin gauge, I forgot to ask, is that pin gauge like exactly 284 or 283.5, or like how do you pick up? Does it matter?
Well, the lands, this is a Brux barrel, and the lands on a Brux barrel are 276.
Okay.
This pin gauge is 275.8.
So just under.
Yeah, so it's just under, so it just will slide in.
Okay.
So we're going to get this.
And that's something we talk about, that a lot of people don't understand. Is that when you're shooting a 284, the hole in the middle is not 284. You have to have an amount of pressure on that bullet, which is why your bore is always going to be smaller.
Well, the grooves are 284, but the lands are 276.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So like the through hole isn't a true 284. Because you've got
right.
It's right. Coming down.
So like this bushing that I'm on the end, this is what they call a grizzly rod.
Okay.
Which I don't use anymore, but I'm just going to show it. This bushing is 275.8.
Okay.
So that it will slide in the hole.
Gotcha.
Okay, so the way that the grizzly rod works is this is a replaceable bushing, just like is on your reamer, and you size that to fit your barrel, and you run it in to where the set screws are, what I call the pivot point, and I got a mark on here, and I run that in there, and this goes in the tailstock. And we're going to put the dial indicator on this.
And what are your dial indicators typically? 10 thousandths, 5 thousandths?
1 thousandths.
1 thousandths?
1 thousandths. And we're going to run that around and try and get that centered up. And so that's a high spot. So do you want to be over on this other side?
Yeah, I can come over here.
Maybe you can see better.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you're just tightening around.
Till I get,
Very little movement on that indicator.
yeah, if any.
So what's acceptable for you? Just barely coming off the mark?
I'll show you when I get down to the nitty gritty, but I like to work within 1 or 2 10,000ths if I can,
Okay.
if the barrel will give me that much. Keep in mind that sometimes the barrel aren't always 100% round. Okay, now we're going to go out here to this one,
Okay.
and we're going to kind of dial it in a little bit. We're not going to do this real tight. We're just going to get it fairly close. Okay, that's pretty close. Okay, so the problem that I have with the grizzly rod is that you're measuring out here what's happening in here. And the other thing I don't like about it is you're measuring off the lands, and I like to measure off the grooves. So I kind of use this grizzly rod to get things centered up, close. But then what I do is I take that out.
I feel like we got some Terry's secret sauce coming.
Yeah. This is a long reach indicator.
Okay.
And I run this in. First of all, I want to see.
So you've got your mark on there.
Yeah, I should bring up the fact that this is the headspace gauge, and I run this barrel out to where this pivot point right here would be right where the neck and throat is.
Okay.
That's how I set the distance here.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be different for every
It
chamber.
is.
Okay.
Yeah, like for a 6BR, it'd be a lot shorter.
Gotcha.
So that tells me I need to be just in past this mark.
Okay. Something I noticed looking at this setup versus the old school way is it seems like everything's a lot tighter. Like,
Yep.
like everything in here, you've got a lot. You're kind of reaching over your compound and cross slide and stuff, but really no less control than when you were out further away, right?
Yes, much more control.
More control
and
this
it's
way.
more accurate because nothing's moving around.
Okay, no deflection or anything like
All right,
that. Okay.
so what we're going to do here is we're going to dial this in off the grooves.
Okay.
The
And now we're using this indicator here.
yes, this long reach indicator. This grizzly rod, we dialed in off of the lands, and the bullet doesn't go down the lands; it goes down the grooves.
Yeah.
So I want to dial in off the grooves, and there's a big campfire argument about whether you should dial in off the lands or off the grooves, but this is how I do it. So
At least you're consistent. Like you picked a way that you agree with, and you stay consistent to it.
get this set. Okay, you can see the thing move back and forth. It's going over the lands,
Okay.
back into the grooves. So we're going to set this.
You're picking a 0 point.
Yeah. So when it goes to the clockwise, that's down in the groove.
Yeah.
And when it goes up there, that's on top of one of the lands.
Gotcha.
So,
You're literally tripping over the lands.
yes, and so we're going to try and get that zeroed. As you can see, we're off a little bit, so we're going to...
Oh, so you're trying to get it to fall into a 0 every time on the groove.
Yes,
Okay.
we got to get it centered up.
So you don't really care about the land side of it. You just care that as it falls into each groove, it comes back to 0.
Well, we'll get to the lands in a minute, but first of all, see... On that grizzly rod, I had it pretty well centered up.
Yeah.
But you can see here that we're off about a good thousandth of an inch
Okay.
on the lands.
Yeah.
Or on the grooves,
On the grooves,
I mean.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, because it looks like it's going left of 0, right of 0.
yep. So we're going to... Okay. So now, if you can see that, we're
Yeah.
almost...
So every time you trip over a land, it falls into the groove.
Yep.
You're getting a 0 pretty much.
We're pretty much there. We're within about a 10,000ths. So that's the reason that I went to this method, is because it's more accurate, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, now that I got it dialed in on the grooves, I want to see where I'm at on the lands. So now I'm going to look at the high spot of the lands and see if they agree. And they do, which means that the lands and grooves agree with each other. So that tells me that the inside of the barrel is round.
Okay.
A lot of times you will get grooves and lands that are different heights.
Huh.
In other words, you'll have maybe 3 grooves that are one setting and another groove that's off a little bit. But this seems to be pretty good. So the next thing we're going to do...
Yeah, sorry to stop you, but do you find that like between button or cut rifling, one is typically better in terms of how they zero out, or you get good ones on both cut and button rifling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we're going to find out how straight the barrel is.
Okay.
So right now the indicator is right in this pivot point, or where the neck and throat of the chamber will be.
Yeah.
So now we want to go out past that a ways and see if it agrees.
Oh, so we're just taking a measurement further in.
Yes.
We're taking the exact same measurement,
right,
but another 1.5 inches in or whatever.
Oh, well, about another 3/4.
3/4 of an inch? Okay.
Yeah. This is out where the bullet would be. And...
Is this where you would typically mark the barrel with a high spot?
Yep.
Okay.
And we are a little bit high in one spot there.
And do you try to chamber with that high spot in a particular orientation?
Well, I'm going to jack the barrel around and get it straight.
Okay.
So I'm going to mark right up here a high spot.
Okay.
Another high spot right here. So we're going to go to the center of that, and we're going to come down here.
Okay.
On this end. So that tells me that this barrel now is going up right here.
Okay.
So we're going to come around here. I'm going to back these off just a tiny bit. Tighten this up. So this is going to push the front of the barrel down.
Okay.
Right? Now you'll be able to see that now, instead of being centered, I'm 5/10,000ths over.
Right.
We're going to come back here.
Okay.
And we're gonna let pressure off of that, because if we don't undo those set screws, we're just bending the barrel.
Gotcha.
So now we've got to take the pressure off them set screws so the barrel can, line itself up. And so now we got to recenter. We got to redo this again.
I feel like this is painting a house. 90% of the work is prep.
Yep.
I remember years ago when I first brought you my very first barrel, like I had no concept of what was being done. And I remember thinking, you just, you screw it into, you chuck it up in a machine somewhere and you hit a button and you come back a couple hours later.
Yeah. If you have a CNC machine, I guess you could do that.
Yeah. Those are definitely a little more popular than they used to be even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But even with those,
okay,
it comes down to indexing.
We got that back centered again, so let's run this back in.
Okay.
And see if we helped it any. And we did.
Okay.
Because now we're within a couple of 10,000ths. So now we're going to come back out.
Okay.
Here and see where we are. This would be about right in here. We'll see how straight this is. So this is off quite a bit back here.
Now, how much of that matters? Don't you end up kind of cutting off a little piece of this end right here?
Some guy, if the barrel's long enough, you can do that.
Yeah.
Normally, my guys only give me 1 inch on the end, so I have to use all of it.
Okay. He was just doing a quick blowout there.
This 2 or 3 times, John, and so you may have to edit,
Sure.
pick out. I'm going to go back now that I've cleaned that barrel. I'm going to go back and re-zero.
Okay.
So you don't need to film that.
All right. So what he's doing now is we're just doing the same process a couple times over. First time was just with a fresh barrel. He went through and cleaned it out. Just get a little finer reading on it now. And we'll check back as soon as he's done getting this trued up.
Okay, so we're zeroed in right here at the pivot point,
Okay.
which is the throat and neck area. So now we're going to go in about another 3/4 of an inch, and we are about 1/1000 out. So I'm going to mark the high spot. There's one right there. Mark that. Now stop. Now it's running true, now that I cleaned it out. We got this running true in the grooves right here where the pivot point is, or where the throat and neck is.
Yeah.
And we're going to run this in a little ways further, another 3/4 of an inch, and it's still pretty straight. And so we're going to back out back here and see how straight we are. This would be about right in here.
Okay.
And we're still pretty straight. This is a pretty straight hole out here at the end. Yeah, it's a little bit wonky. We'll probably pre-bore this first little bit. What I would do is
Or like this is a 33-inch blank, you could just lop
yeah,
1/2 inch off.
yeah, I could. If this barrel, so right now we're running true here at the throat.
Yeah.
If when I ran this in and it was a lot higher or lower, I would jack up the end of the barrel out there, up or down, until I got this first 3 or 4 inches here running straight.
So,
but this one is a pretty straight hole, so I don't have to do that.
Is the out of round up here from like the lapping process, or
yeah, probably. I think so. A lot of them, this first inch or so is not very straight, and most guys will buy barrels a little long, and they'll just cut that first inch off.
And so this is a 33-inch blank. We're going to finish it at about 31 inches, so that gives you a couple inches.
I could have cut an inch of that off, but I'll just pre-bore it.
Okay.
So what if this first 4 inches from here into here is not running true, I'm going to jack the barrel around to where I get that part straight.
Okay.
I'm not going to worry about this first inch. I'm either going to pre-bore or cut it off. But I got to have 3 inches from here to here to here that is straight, so that the chamber is straight, so the bullet gets started straight, and so I can cut a round chamber.
So can you explain why, if one of the options is pre-boring, how does pre-boring eliminate the...
I'll show you.
Okay.
I'll show you. So this barrel's pretty straight, so we don't have to jack it around, so we're good.
Okay.
This happens to be a Brux barrel, and the Brux barrels that I've got lately are really straight.
Okay.
All right, so
now we're done back here as well?
yeah, I'm going to make sure that I got this tight enough that it'll hold, but...
Now how do you tighten that without affecting any deflection on it?
Well, I just watched the indicator.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, next, is we're going to cut the trunnion. And I'll show you how we do that.
All right. We'll be back in just a second while he gets his tool set up.
Okay, this is going to be a defiance action, and the trunnion length on the defiance action is .965. So we're going to mark that. so I'll know where to cut to.
Okay. So that's a pretty thick line on there. Is it just have to be close?
Well, I will measure. I will.
I'm just asking. I don't know.
I will measure it as I go.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, that's just sort of a gauge of where you need to get to, and as you get close, you'll take a final measure. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just asking.
I'm just swagging this. I don't really actually have any idea what I'm doing.
And now, if I remember right, different Defiances over the last X amount of years have had different trunnion lengths.
Yeah, and different thread sizes and so on and so forth.
And you just know, what date range mine's from, and you know how to cut mine because you've done enough.
Yeah. And so this barrel is 1.250.
Yep.
And we need to be down to 1.1/16. So we're going to set our cutter up here. And we're going to start cutting this. You won't have to film all this, but I'll just make one cut here, and you can. I'm going to measure that, see where I'm at, and I'm going to leave it a little bit long. And I'll explain later why I'm leaving it long.
Something you and I have talked about, in the past, and just so everybody has an appreciation here, this is a really dangerous tool.
Yeah.
I mean, people die on lathes every year, right?
Yes. If you get caught in that, it's going to break you up. This happens to be only 2 horsepower. The human body can hold about a 1/16 or an 18th or an eighth of a horsepower. Is all you can hold.
Wow.
So if you get a long sleeve shirt or your hand or whatever caught in this, it's going to run until you hit the emergency brake or until you shut it off.
Yeah. I want people to understand. I mean, this is not a tool that you take lightly when you decide to learn how to use it.
Right. Okay, so let me finish cutting this down, and then we'll.
All right.
When we get down to the nitty gritty, why? So we're getting down. We're at 78. We need to be at 62. So. Check that and see where we're at. That's 67. And go back here, we're going to take another little bit. See where we're at.
When you do your threads, do you tend to make them just a hair, I know you can make tight threads or loose threads because of stainless on stainless and potential for galling. Do you have kind of a personal philosophy?
Yes, and I will get to that when we do the thread.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead.
Yes. So we're at 60, about 64. The spec is 62, but you don't want to cut them that. That'll leave the threads pointed. You want the threads a little bit flat on the crest, and so we want to be about 58 or 60. So we're going to go down. couple of thousandths. See where this is. This should be pretty close. We're at 60, which is ideal. So we'll run this up and we'll square up the shoulder.
Okay.
We're going to run that up there, and then we're very slowly going to run this out and square that shoulder up. We're going to check and make sure that we got that trunnion long enough. We do. We got a little extra. Double check the diameter. Yep, okay, we're going to start threading, so you probably want to be on the other side.
All right. Let's see. Carbide cutters?
Yes. A lot of guys like high-speed steel. I don't, because it wears fast. And you have to continually resharpen. I like carbide because they last a long time. Okay, so we got a threading tool set up here.
Okay.
And the Defiance is 1 16 thread. So we're going to set this up for that.
You have most of those settings memorized?
Yes. Okay, so we're going to make a cut here. Then we're going to get our thread pitch gauge out here, and we're going to double check to make sure there's a
What do we got?
there's a 16 right there, and we're going to check this to make sure that we're actually cutting 16 threads
Okay.
per inch, because I forgot to check a couple of times.
Oh no.
Yeah, I cut the wrong threads. So you want to make sure. A little oil on here.
Is that actual cutting oil
It
or
is.
motor oil or?
It's cutting oil. It's high sulfur content oil.
I hear some guys saying they like using like 1030 or stuff like that.
Well, you got to have something that's got a lot of sulfur in it to get a smooth cut. Okay, you probably let me get these threads cut down a little further.
All right. So we got a little work to do. How many passes do you think it'll take?
Takes a few.
All right. We'll be back in a few minutes here.
Okay, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. Gonna round that end off a little bit. We're getting down close.
So how do you know when the threads are deep enough?
Well, experience, for one thing, and then we're going to check it on the action. I'll show you in a second here. Make another pass. Now I know those threads aren't quite deep enough, but what we'll do is we'll get the action here and see if we can get it started on here. It will start, but see, it's so tight it won't go. So we know the threads are not deep enough yet.
Okay.
So we're going to go. I've done hundreds of these, so I got a pretty good idea where I need to be.
Yeah. Only hundreds?
Yeah.
Something tells me it's more than hundreds.
Yeah. That was about another 3/1000. We're going to do that again because we have deflection, so we're going to go back at the same setting. And they're still not deep enough, but we'll see. We can go, but see, it's really tight.
Yeah.
So we need to go more. Make another cut at the same setting.
So you can take 2 passes at the exact same setting and you'll still cut more because of deflection?
Oh, you can make 3 or 4 passes.
Really?
Yes. It screws on, but it's still tight.
Yeah.
You would gall the threads if you tried to screw it on there.
Yeah.
So we
don't want that.
we want to just sneak up on this. Another pass at the same setting. I'm going to take a third pass at the same setting.
And more than anything, this is just cleaning up the thread right now, right?
Yes. Now, we should be pretty close.
So are you a proponent of motor oil, anti-seize, anything, on barrel thread to action?
Yes, you got to put stainless against stainless will seize, so, and gall. So you need to see, we're a little tight right up there at the end.
Right up at the shoulder.
Yeah, we're going to take a little bit more. Yes, you have to put something on the threads because they will gall and seize, especially if they're tight.
Yeah.
You have to leave these threads loose enough so that the shoulder will square up and so that the threads don't gall.
And
So,
for those that have never galled anything, let me tell you, it might as well be welded.
yeah.
I mean, you gall something, it ain't coming off.
I have twice in my career have locked a action on a barrel.
Oof.
And it was not pretty. So we're going to take another pass at the same setting. goes on. That's,
All right. So you just kind of cleaned up those threads a little bit.
yeah.
One final pass on them, and everything meets up to the shoulder real well.
Yeah, so see, this wants to chunk.
Yeah.
That means you've got a good fit on the shoulder. You'd want to, if it's tight going up there and doesn't chunk, that means that the threads are probably still too tight. So we got the threads cut. So now we're going to cut the cone.
So let me ask you a question. I'm assuming you know as a machinist, but what is actually holding when I put a torque wrench, on my action wrench, and I torque the action to the barrel? Is it the friction of the shoulder against the face of the action, or is it the compression of the threads?
Well, it's both, but it's mostly the shoulder. The shoulder is what stops you from going ahead. So when you hit the shoulder, that snugs up the threads.
Gotcha. It pulls them tight?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the cone on a Defiance is 30 degrees, so we're going to set this at 30.
And that's because I use a cone bolt versus a BR bolt?
Yeah.
Or Remington bolt?
Yeah, Remington takes a whole different setup.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, if you look here at my lugs, see how my lugs taper down to the sides? So that's a cone bolt. That fits into a cone. And you'll see
I'm going to make a cone in the back of the barrel.
Yeah, so you'll see him. If you have a Remington bolt face, it would be a flat.
Yeah, with a recess in it.
With a recess in it, yeah.
So I left this a little bit long on purpose, and I'll explain why.
Everything with machining is managing your passes.
Yes.
It's really fascinating to watch.
Okay, now we're going to stick the action on there and see where we're at.
Okay.
You can do the math to cut this training to length, and I used to do it that way, but I don't like to, because once you get past the part where the bolt doesn't touch the back of the barrel anymore, you kind of lose track where you're at. So I like to sneak up on it, because I don't want to leave any more gap between the back of the barrel and the cone than I have to, just for safety.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to run this up here, and we're going to mark top dead center. Now that, of course, won't go down.
Yeah.
So we're going to back this off. So we're about a turn and a half, so that's about, it's 60 thousandths per turn, and so it'd be about 90 thousandths. So we'll take about 60 thousandths off of that, and then we'll check it again.
Okay. It's so weird to see the cone in there without the chamber. It looks like so much metal.
Yeah.
People always ask me, like, what does it cost to chamber? And prices obviously vary all over the place, but, people really need to understand what it takes to chamber a barrel. I mean, it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. I mean, it's human interaction, it's experience, it's...
Yeah, a lot of what you're paying for is know-how.
Yeah.
Okay, so we set our dial indicator up here.
Okay. So over here, he's got an indicator. You can barely see it, but he's got an indicator right here, and it's coming towards the slide, and so he's going to be able to measure how far he's coming in on that.
Yeah. So.
Okay, we're at 30 thousandths. 40,000. So we're taking about 10 thousandths at a whack here.
Yeah. I'm going to check it again. We're not there yet, but I want to see where we're at.
Well, what do they always say? You can't add metal.
No, it's hard to do. I don't think you'd appreciate it if I welded on the back of your barrel. Top dead center mark.
Oh, right. So,
yeah, we got about another 60,000.
Yeah, you were just under one rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which would be about right, because you cut 40, you said it would be 90, and just under one rotation would be about 50,000. So I think you've done this before. So it looks like we're doing about 45 thousandths. We'll come in just shy of the 50. I noticed you're really methodical in taking your cutting assembly off every time. Is that to prevent damage, injury?
See these scars right here?
Yep. Oh, yeah. All right. Fair enough. No, I mean, you definitely have like a really good habit of doing it, and I assumed it was...
after you cut the back of your hand 3 or 4 times, it's like...
Maybe I should find another way.
Yeah. I'm a slow learner, but I finally figured it out.
So about half a rotation?
Yeah.
Is that because you didn't change the angle, but you changed the cutter head just a hair?
Yeah, but no,
that doesn't affect anything because you got the 30-degree angle.
No, this is the 30-degree angle.
Right, yeah, that's what I meant.
Check and make sure I'm cutting the right angle.
Yeah. Technicalities.
Huh?
Technicalities.
Yeah.
I remember I was in a hurry for a bolt one time, and I bought one off an Accurate Shooter. Didn't even think to ask if it was Cone or Remington.
Yeah.
That didn't work out so good.
Well, the reason I check is because bats are 25 degrees.
Oh.
And everybody else is 30. And if you cut the wrong angle, you can end up with too much case head sticking off the bat.
Yeah.
This is a kind of a slow process, but I'm really anal about my bolt to barrel clearance.
Yeah.
You get too much and you're going to have exposed case head.
Yeah.
Too little and the bolt's going to be hitting the barrel.
So it's both a safety and performance issue. Now, if for some reason like that got messed up, you would simply extend the trunnion, move the shoulder forward, and
Yep, if I cut it too much, yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, going back to jacking the barrel around, if I had to jack the barrel around to get this straight,
Yeah.
I would mark the high spot and I would index the action to where the high spot was up.
Gotcha.
But being how we cut this one straight in, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should be down to about one more cut.
Yeah, you're almost there.
Yeah, almost there.
Yeah.
So that's about 15 thousandths. So if we take 20 thousandths off, we should be there.
Gotcha. And it doesn't matter if it's a 2-lug, 3-lug, anything like that. Oh.
No, it just, you have to get the right angle depending on what the cone is. And if it's a Savage, it's different. Remington's different. The bat's different.
Don't become a machine expecting to stay clean, right?
No. This should be pretty close. So what we're shooting for is about 5 to 8 thousandths clearance.
Okay. Nice little bolt drop.
Yeah, but it's tight. I don't have any back and forth.
Okay.
So what we'll do, put some Dykem on the end of the bolt nose.
Okay. Well, that'll mark the inside of the cone.
Yes. So if there's black on there, even though this closes, I know that because I didn't have any end play, that we need another probably 5 thousandths. Yeah, see it?
Oh, wow.
It?
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that we're just clearing it. So we're going to take 5 thousandths.
And then we'll be good.
We'll be good.
All right. What grit paper is that?
80, I think.
80. That's rougher than I would have thought.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the important thing for people to remember is like there's different ways to chamber barrels. I mean, there is no one way. This is just the way that you've found works really well for the people that you chamber guns for. It's a process that you're very comfortable with, and it produces repeatable results.
And it sets national records.
And it sets national records, yeah. And non-official national records like Mike's 200 or what was it, 20?
230 or?
It wasn't quite that many.
220,
27 or something.
Yeah,
man, I wish that was a registered match, but.
So now we're gonna chamber the barrel.
So you're just getting everything out of the way now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, as we talked about earlier when we was talking about chambering the old way in a steady rest, with all that stuff moving around and all the clearances, I like doing it through the headstock because everything's held solid and it doesn't move around. I can line the barrel up if it's crooked. In this case, the barrel is straight, so we don't have to worry about that. But a lot of them, the first 3 or 4 inches are a little bit wonky, so you have to jack the barrel around. You can't do that with the old method, and there's most guys, or a lot of guys, use a floating reamer holder to compensate for the misalignment between this and this, but I don't do that anymore. I spent a couple of days getting my tailstock lined up with the headstock, and so I just use a solid holder. That way the reamer's not moving around, and I think I can cut a rounder hole and a hole that's reamer dimension. You don't want to cut a hole that's bigger than the reamer because then it expands brass and causes all kinds of problems.
Yeah, for sure.
So I need to get my...
All right, we'll be back in a minute. He's going to get a couple things set up here.
Okay, we're going to pre-bore this, and we're going to set this at about, doesn't matter, that's about 7 degrees.
How come not 90?
Well, because we're going to go in at a roughly the same angle as what the taper is on the reamer, but only a little steeper.
Oh, okay. And we do have the reamer chucked up over here. And that's in, so that's an adjustable reamer stop.
Yes.
And then that's in the chuck. So this is all set up, and this is set up for roughly the head space of the chamber based on the go gauge.
Yeah, I'll show you how to do that here in a minute.
Got a little farming going on outside today, huh?
Yeah.
That's a big tractor. Doing some serious groundwork out there.
Yes. So the reason we're going to pre-bore this is you can't just run the reamer in because it'll just follow the hole. So this first inch is a little bit off, and we need to get that back centered up. And the only way to do that is with a boring bore. If you run a drill in, it'll just follow the hole.
So a boring bar stays true to what you want as opposed to a drill or something else.
It just takes off. It just cuts off one side, as opposed to all sides like a.
Oh, so it's truing up the inside.
Yeah, we're making the hole back centered again. You see?
Yeah, yeah. And how far are you going in?
Oh, when I'm all set and done, I'll be in about an inch.
About an inch? Okay.
Inch and a quarter, maybe. I just need to get this first part of the hole round and centered.
And that's because we found when we were truing up the barrel that after the first 3/4 to an inch, it was running true.
Yes, but this first little bit isn't.
Like everything else, it's all in passes.
Yep.
I'm assuming that's like a machining 101 thing you learn. Never try to hog it all off at once.
Yeah, that's right.
You remember who was president when you learned how to machine?
Washington.
Well, I was going to say at least Grant. All right, so that's nice and pretty in the middle now.
Yeah, and hopefully centered up.
And I mean, this is kind of a dumb question, but obviously you know with your boring bar, like diameter-wise, compared to the chamber. Like if you were doing a smaller chamber, you would use a smaller boring bar.
Well, yeah, you don't see this. I don't have to come out all the way. I'll show you here in a minute. You just need to get a round hole for the reamer to fall.
It just can't be bigger than the reamer.
Yeah, it just can't be bigger than the reamer.
Right. I guess that's how I didn't ask it right.
So what we've done here is this is an adjustable reamer stop, and we've set this up so that we use this headspace gauge, and we set this up so that we're going to cut the chamber a little bit shorter than what the headspace gauge is. And then when we get down to that close, then we'll know how much to set this back to finish it. So we set that up like that. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is for right now, I'm going to take this bushing off.
Okay.
Because I don't want it to follow that crooked hole if there's any of that crooked hole left. I want this
to
part
do the
of the
work.
reamer to do the work out front here and make sure everything stays centered up.
So is that bushing 276 then?
275/8.
Oh, 275/8. So yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I meant. It's going to match what you were using as your pin gauge.
So you can see there, we're just going to go in here and start that. And I think we probably need to change positions, John.
All right.
I can get this out of your way, or you can get in a position where,
Oh, I'm good. I'm up overhead of you.
yeah, I need to work from over here.
Luckily, I'm on a boom, so I can stay out of the way.
Yeah, you can stand right here if you want.
All right. Get a little better angle.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're going in there and we're cutting that. You can see now we got a hole started there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So how far do you work at a time with that reamer?
I will show you that.
All right.
So I'm going to do something here. Yeah, let's stop for a second.
All right. We'll be back.
Okay, what I've done here is I started that reamer in that pre-bored hole, and I put this indicator in there just to see how we're doing, and we're going to spin this around and see what we got. And the needle doesn't even move.
Wow.
So we've got a round hole.
I wouldn't even think that indicator was touching.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so now let me go get a drill bit, John.
All right. What are we doing now?
Well, to save wear and tear on the reamer, we're going to bore out a little bit of this.
So you're just using a drill bit that's just barely undersized from the OD?
Right. And I'm going to go in about 300 or 400 thousandths at a time, because the bushing is about a ½ inch, and I want to make sure that the bushing is always touching. So now we're going to put the bushing back on.
Okay. That's right there.
Put the bushing back on.
That replaceable bushing is also like, I know some barrels are, you know, another like 276 or
Yeah,
so you could always get a different bushing, or does that tend to fit?
Well,
Even
I have a whole box full of bushings that are 2 10,000ths
Yeah.
in diameter difference, and whatever size the barrel takes. Some barrels vary, like I say, a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to continue doing this, and we'll see you when we get close to the end.
All right. So how many passes do you think this is going to be? What, 10, 20 passes?
With this other,
Well, just back and forth and with the reamer. Because you go, what, about a 1/4 inch at a time? Between cleanings, 3/8 of an inch?
about 400 thousandths at a time.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back.
Okay, we're going to run this drill bit in and cut the last little bit. I'm going to go in about 300 thousandths.
And in case people are wondering, he's got a gauge on the backside, so he knows exactly how far he's turning that in. It's not just guessing.
Clean out the chips here a little bit.
All right. Very high-tech flushing method.
Yes. We're going to reuse some of this oil.
Oh, there you go.
They do that sometimes. Stop until I get closer. Okay, so now we've got the reamer run in as far as the reamer stop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to screw the action on and put the headspace gauge in there and see how much further we got to go. There's a lot of different ways of doing this. This is the way I do it. I like to sneak up on it because I'm really anal about headspace. Okay, so that's one full turn. That's 60 thousandths. That's if that was straight up, that would be 30. So we're about 35 thousandths. So we're going to come over here. And we're going to set this 5, 10, 15. We're going to do 20 thousandths.
And that's the beauty of that adjustable stop.
Yep. We're going to do 20 thousandths and check it again. good so that we get a good headspace reading.
Okay.
Okay, I can trade you place.
All right.
Put this back on. There's our top dead center. Okay, right there would be 15,000, so we're there, so that's about 10. So we're gonna go another 5, we're gonna go about 7,000.
Okay. It's amazing how much metal comes off just in, 10,000s.
Yeah, it is.
So close.
That's about 2,000.
Yeah.
About what that is. So we're going to set this for 2 more thousandths, and that ought to get us really, really close.
All right, so we're just going to kind of rinse and repeat this 1 or 2 more times at the most, and
Yeah, probably.
should be pretty good at that point.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier when I'm not in your way, huh?
Yeah. Okay, one of the things that I always do when I do a barrel is I take 5 seconds and clear my mind and make sure that this headspace gauge is in where it should be. If the headspace is correct and it's sticking clear out there, you've cut the training too short. And you will have an unsupported case.
Yeah.
So always just look at that and make sure that I got everything right.
Yeah.
And it's not going to blow up in somebody's face. Because when I do a barrel for somebody, they assume that when they take it out to shoot it, it's going to be okay.
Well, your insurance thinks so too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we probably need about a half a more thousandths. I'm going to tighten that up a little more and see. I think we need about another half thousandths or maybe a thousandth.
All right. Okay, so you came back in, took an action wrench. You threw the action wrench in, torqued it, not full action torque, but enough where you're getting a pretty good bite on it.
Yeah.
Just to make sure there's any play.
So see, we're still rubbing pretty hard. That's about a half a thousandth or a thousandth more,
Okay.
Probably another thousandth. So
because just the action of tightening with the action wrench is what, half a thousandths to a thousandths?
yeah, you can't turn it up full tight with your hand. So when you put the action wrench in, you're actually going to turn it a little more. So
Yeah.
when you go in more, why, of course, that shortens the headspace up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think a half a thousand's not going to be enough. I'm going to go 1,000.
Okay. So that's probably about half, a little more than half of what you normally put on the full torque.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Okay. Alrighty. So
So that's 99% of it, and there's a 1% that's secret sauce, right?
yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately, the secret sauce isn't going to make it to video today, guys. But that's almost.
Yeah, how I set the final headspace is a secret. So
All right. We're going to come back when he's done setting that headspace. All right. Well, he's just given the barrel just a very light polish before we go to put the tuner threads on. So the chamber is all done at this point. So he's just got this thing chucked up, just hitting it with a little bit of sandpaper and just making it look pretty. You moving between grits?
not yet.
But you will.
I will.
Yeah. All right, we'll check back when this thing's done. All right, he's moving up in grit. And one thing to note is you'll see right here where it's making the connection on one side. The reason he polishes now is because once you've crowned the barrel, you don't want to go shoving anything in the end of it like that. So if he polishes it now, then he'll do the crown and the the tuner thread later, and won't have to come back and risk damaging the crown on it. The steady hands of a craftsman. Well, the barrel is now polished up, and he's getting it trued back in the lathe again. So even when doing just something as simple as a tuner threading, you still go through the same process of getting that barrel trued up, right?
Centered up.
Or centered up.
Yeah. We're always working off the center line of the bore.
Okay.
I'm just doing the outside here right now to get a rough.
And then you'll go through the same process of centering it up.
And I'm gonna face this off, and then we will set it up on the center line of the bore. I'll check it again. But right now I'm gonna face this off just to get a
clean edge.
A clean edge to work from.
And this was, so we talked about this earlier, but this was a 33-inch blank. Obviously, we lost a little off one end because of the chambering and the threading. And then you just went out and we took a measurement. We knew we wanted it to be 31 overall. And you just hit it with a bandsaw.
Yep.
You just hit it with a bandsaw, and now you're doing kind of the finishing detail.
Yeah, and I'm just going to face off the front.
That's so pretty to watch. I just love watching it, it's amazing.
Now we're going to put a pin gauge in there.
Okay.
And get this thing dialed right in. You want me to turn that so you can see?
No, we're okay. Boy, that ain't moving much.
No.
Wow.
So that tells me that...
I mean, look at that, guys. That needle ain't moving.
That tells me that the concentricity is pretty good on this Buck's barrel. We'll see what it is. Yeah, see, it's within like a half a thousandth or a thousandth of being concentric. So...
Yeah, I mean, that's just barely flickering.
Check it in a couple of different places.
Just like before.
Yeah. That looks pretty good. Good enough for the girls we go with.
You just checking the backside one more time?
Yes.
Wow.
I'd say we're about there.
Yeah. But it's amazing. Just a couple little flicks of the wrench and it just dials right in.
A flick of the wrist. Okay, I want to be...
And we're putting on, so this is the Cortina version 2 tuner. So it's not going to require as much metal to come off. So we're going from a 1 1/4 outer to about an inch. So we're only losing about a 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch on each side. And so we're working off these dimensions up here.
Yeah, I'm going to cut the crown.
Okay. So you don't really use a crowning tool, a proper crowning tool. You do the hand crown.
It's a crowning tool, I guess.
Well, like I know, like when I was at JGS, they sell like actual crowning
Oh,
tools,
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I guess if you're doing a lot of barrels, it's easier to just throw a tool in and have it crown up.
I don't know. This is more accurate, I think. The problem with using that crowning tool is that, you know, there's a bushing in there, and so you got a little bit of movement.
And what's your preferred crown? The 11-degree crown?
Well, it's a modified 11. I'll show you here in a second when I make the last cut.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Put a little oil on it here.
Yeah.
So I come out. So we come straight out, 90 degrees.
And that's just barely cutting right now.
Yeah, I'm just taking a finished cut. I'm coming out 90 degrees for a little ways straight,
Yeah.
at a straight angle.
And for those that aren't familiar with a lathe, like if you watch this handle, that's the compound or the cross slide.
The compound.
So the cross slide is automatically coming out, and it just slowly works its way. So it's pretty amazing to watch.
So I come out at 90 degrees straight for a ways,
Yeah.
and then I cut at 11 degrees.
Interesting.
The reason for that is, if you're going to do 11 degree right from the muzzle, right from the bore, that bore center line has to be absolutely 100% dead straight, not a 10 thousandths off, because if it's a 10 thousandths off and you start that 11 degree crown right from the muzzle, it'll be cut more on one side than the other. If you come, that's the reason I come out 90 degrees. I come out 90 degrees for just a little ways. So if you're cutting at 90 degrees, even if this was off a thousandth or two, it wouldn't matter.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's within a 10 thousandth. So I come out straight for a little ways and then do the 11. So it's what I call a modified 11 degree.
Okay. That makes sense. Now you're just giving it a little polish.
Yeah, make it look like a professional done it.
And do you have to be careful when you're doing this about like actually hitting the crown with sandpaper now?
Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want to run the sandpaper on the end of the crown because it'll roll the edges over, and then you'll have an uneven crown.
Gotcha. And what are you doing now? Doing a finish pass?
Yeah, I didn't like the way that looked, so I'm gonna do it again. Another finish pass. Have to get it in gear first. So I'm coming out straight, 90 degrees.
And is it just kind of an arbitrary number where you start the 11?
Yeah, just whatever looks good. I'm going to stop that, and now I'm going to go with 11 degree, which I'm doing by hand. The compound you have to turn by hand.
So what's the advantage of an 11 degree? I know a lot of people go with an 11.
There is no advantage. I've tried every kind of crown you can possibly imagine. As long as they're square and clean, it doesn't make any difference.
So I guess the one thing I've heard about the 11 is that at least if you put the gun muzzle down, you risk less damage to the crown just because there's a little bit of an air gap.
Right, and the same thing even if it's a step crown.
Oh, right.
That's what a crown is for, is to protect the crown. Some of the guys don't put a crown on. They cut it just straight 90 degree.
Yeah.
I think the short range guys do a lot of that.
Yeah, I've seen some of that before.
And that's fine. Just don't bump the crown on anything.
Yeah.
But I do this because customers think it looks cool.
Yeah, it is pretty sexy.
But it doesn't do anything.
How about a reverse crown?
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, it's looking good.
Yeah, you don't want to put the sandpaper inside that hole because it'll round the edge over, and then you'll have a messed up crown.
Who knows what'll happen then?
Well, it won't shoot.
Well, it'll shoot somewhere.
Yeah.
And so a lot of, like just watching today, it seems like, on top of the processes and stuff, it's really about knowing what steps to do in what order, right? Because in my head, I would have thought, oh, we're gonna do the tuner, then we're gonna do the crown. But if you do the tuner first and then you do the crown, you're gonna lose some of the length of the tuner by nature of crowning. So like you have to really think about the order of.
Yeah, you can actually do it either way, and I've done it both ways.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
But doing the crown first will give you slightly truer dimensions?
Well, then I know
not?
exactly how far I got to go.
Oh, gotcha.
In this case, I think it's...
oh, here, let me open my phone up again.
I think it's 1 inch, 150 thousandths, I believe.
So,
Is that right?
115 total.
1 inch, 150 thousandths.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did I put my...
Your mind?
What did I do with my calipers? I hid them somewhere.
That's a great question. All right, we're going on the great caliper hunt. We'll be back in a minute.
Oh, here it is, right in front of my face.
Found it. I put that plastic bag on top. Sorry.
Okay. 1 inch, 150 thousandths.
115.
Yeah.
1.15.
Yeah, that's
okay.
150 thousandths.
Just making sure. I didn't want to read it to you wrong. And you're using the caliper to score it.
Yeah. You can put Dykem on there, but I'm lazy, so this is easy and more accurate.
So this is a very similar process to putting the tenon on.
Yep, we are. We're cutting a tenon and we're threading it. It's the same process.
The smell of burnt metal.
Yeah, right to the line.
Is it smoking more because you're hogging more metal at a time?
No, it's the oil burning.
Oh, the oil.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be back when we get down to size.
All right. All right, so we've gotten down to the base dimension, and now he is scoring. There's two separate measurements. There's about 400 thousandths that is threadless, and then there is the remainder that is threaded. So he's measuring out both of those dimensions, and then we'll probably start taking a little bit more metal off and then threading for the actual tuner, because not the entire end of the barrel is not threaded. So there's actually going to be about half smooth and then half threaded. So So this is the front section that'll stay smooth, and then you'll do the threading afterwards?
Yes. You have to cut this down first, otherwise it would thread the whole barrel.
Oh, that makes sense.
$9.75.
And what do we have to get to?
It says $9.35.
Okay. You know, watching all this mess, I was asking Terry earlier, you know, how often do you clean your lathe? And he said every single time he uses it, he cleans it off. So that's, you know, it's not a deep clean, but that's going to be getting all the chips and wiping down the oil, the lathes, the, you know, the compound, the cross slide, the tooling. So in between every single barrel, this thing gets cleaned. That's pretty impressive. Are we getting close?
Getting there.
$9.4 something?
Yeah.
Oh, so close.
Yep.
How come the headstock sticks once in a while?
I think there's something matter with the motor.
You just got to give it a little helping hand once in a while.
Yeah, I thought the starter was bad in it, but I put a new starter and it didn't make any difference.
Are we almost there?
Yeah, we're there at 9:35.
All right. And the tuner slips over it, so we're good there.
Yeah, it should.
No, just a
I'm
little.
going to take the O-ring out for the time being.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that O-ring was in there. That does add a little giddy up in there, huh? It's like you know what you're doing.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that.
I'm telling you guys, if you ever get a chance to hang out with your gunsmith while they're chambering up something or just to watch it happen, I would highly recommend it. I know a lot of gunsmiths don't like people in their workshop, but if you can get somebody to let you in, it's a pretty amazing experience.
Okay, we're at 20 threads, it says.
Do you need me to unlock? Do you need me to unlock my phone again, or are you good?
One more time, just to make sure. By the way, I cut my threads straight in. Some people cut them at they set the compound at 29.5 degrees and cut the threads with the compound.
Yeah.
So you're only actually cutting on the lead side of the cutter.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that because if you don't do things right, you end up with a Z-shaped thread. So I cut my threads straight in.
Okay.
It's just however you prefer to do it. And 20 is 1/4.
That's for 20. That's for 19, isn't it?
Huh?
That's for 19, isn't it? 1/4. How does that read? Oh, 1/4 there. I was looking at the other 1/4. I was thrown off.
I'll get my pitch gauge out here and make sure that we've got.
Yeah, we had 20 sitting out on one of those gauges.
There it is. Yeah, it says we got 120.
Very exciting. Well, as Hannibal used to say, I love it when a plan comes together.
Okay, we're going to try this, but we're not there yet.
Close.
Uh,
Almost close.
Nah, I don't think we're quite almost close yet.
I'm being optimistic about it.
This should be closer.
What's this thing called that you watch?
It's the thread gauge.
So this right here is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It tells you, there's a chart here that tells you what numbers to start it on depending on what the thread pitch is. Like, for example, 16 threads.
Yeah.
Any one of these, like 1, 2, 3, 4, are the side, any even one. But like on a 18, it's a 1, 3, so it can only be this one and this one.
Interesting.
And this 20 is 1, 4, so it can be 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Oh, okay.
In other words, it's just to keep track of where
it starts.
Where it starts your threads.
Interesting. Closer?
Not yet.
I got faith.
Uh-huh.
I got faith. I'm assuming if you cut the threads too deep, you start diminishing the diameter at some point.
Oh yes, you do. That's absolutely right. And then they get too loose and you've screwed up.
Now it's close.
Yeah.
Just a hair more, huh?
Yeah, it's just a tiny bit tight, so probably take just a cleanup cut.
By the time we throw the O-ring on there, it's going to get a little tighter.
Oh, yeah.
So he's just polishing that front leading section that was threadless. Again, remember, Terry is a professionally trained machinist. Don't try this at home.
Okay, I'm going to take a little cut off that nose so that the O-ring will start easier.
Oh, nice. That'll just help it slip over a little better.
It should, yes.
All right, here we go. Nope. The plastic washer goes, or you're just trying it with the compression?
Let's try it and see if it's going to
hold. Yeah, so these new ones, the idea is to get it to flush with the end of the barrel. That's your starting point. Yeah, there you go.
Well, I think we're there.
Beautiful. All right, we're going to get this cleaned up, get our tuner put back together properly and back on, and we'll show you the finished product. That is a fully installed tuner. So, well, Terry, I'd like to thank you for your time and your generosity in letting us come down here. I know that these kinds of things aren't easy to show people, and there's a lot of different ways to do it, and it's easy for people to say that's the right or wrong way, but I got to tell you, having seen multiple national records set with his guns, and just my own experiences and some other people's, I can't thank you enough for what you do, Terry.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. Well, that's talking with Terry again, extended edition. We'll hopefully get down here and do something different with him next time. Hope you guys are doing well. Talk to you later. Have a good one.